Hi, I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avasec Communications and host of StrategyCast. Join me and my guests, innovators, disruptors, and visionaries, as we explore bold and brave marketing strategies that help you transform, scale, and grow your brand. Today's episode of StrategyCast features my guest, Laurier Mandin, founder of Graphos and a seasoned expert in B2B marketing. Laurier's sharp insights into the evolving B2B landscape, the impact of authenticity in branding, and the transformative power of understanding buyer psychology are so thought-provoking and will truly change the way you think about your marketing strategies. Plus, he shares highlights from his book, I Need That, packed with actionable takeaways for business leaders. Let's get started.
A competitive edge starts with strategy, and strategy starts with knowing how to develop one. StrategyCast is a leading marketing podcast that serves up strategic insights, trends, and tips to help separate your business from the pack. Tune in weekly as host Lori Jones interviews bold marketing leaders who have priceless wisdom and are willing to share. Each episode explores cutting-edge approaches that have proven instrumental in transforming brands into industry trailblazers.
I am so thrilled to have Laurier Mandin join the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Lori. It's so great to be here. I've been listening to some of your back episodes like I tend to do before I go on a podcast. And you've interviewed such great people. The topics are fantastic. I love the job you do. So it's a real honor to be here. And my goal is to elevate as much as I can to make sure that I bring to your audience what they're accustomed to getting from the StrategyCast show.
Well, I tell you, there's no doubt you're going to do that because I feel the same way about you, by the way. You've got an incredible book out. It might look backwards to everyone. It may not. It's called I Need That. And that is really what we're going to focus in on today. And what I love about this book is that you don't need a PhD to understand it. Psychology is something so unique to what we do from a marketing standpoint. And dare I say, good communicators, good marketers use psychology in everything we do. There are many that just kind of like throw the dart and see what sticks, and they're not really diving into what they can really do to create a better impact with their audience. We're going to dive into that and really strategies for overcoming buyer resistance. Before we get there, tell us a little bit about your journey and really what led you to wanting to write the book.
Sure. And I've been a marketer since the early 1990s. I started my agency, Graphos, in 1993. And a lot has changed since then, as you can imagine. An interesting thing that I'm recognizing is that right now, we're within my experience in that last 30 plus years, this is the most exciting time ever to be a marketer. And I feel that, I believe that with 100% of my heart. It's terrifying because we don't know what's happening. We don't know what AI is going to do to our lives and how we're going to use it next, what it's going to make us. But it really is the best time I've ever experienced because we can do so much and there's so much ahead of us for us to learn, for us to utilize, great things to do. But what took me after this...
If I could just comment on that, because I agree with you so much. If we take a look at, the lineage of marketing, back to the Ogilvy days and the Y&K days, and, the earlier, Mad Men days, it was just so iconic from the standpoint of people really thinking, okay, maybe marketing can help us sell more things to more people more often. And, so there was this path there that really paved the way for all of us today, I believe. And one thing that has not been lost is the need for psychology in everything that we do. And I think over time, people forgot about that. And they thought, okay, digital, we can just shove it out. We don't need to spend, 48 hours or, 4 months developing creative. We can do it in 48 hours. But what was lost was the psychological components of that. It's one of the reasons why I love so much about what we're talking about today, and something that this agency really hangs its hat on is the strategy and the need for understanding the psychology behind decision making.
especially if you're doing it in innovative ways like what you're doing. You're creating AI tools that process data to do things better, to be able to understand more large amounts of information, to be able to take your clients to where they need to be more effectively than they ever could, and then to create the words, the creative that are going to connect those two pieces from their end user to the product, and to do that more effectively than they ever could before. And that's one of the things as marketers we always struggle with. The title of the book actually came from a client of mine over a decade ago. This was one of the smartest innovator minds I've ever worked with, and we worked on numerous products together. But one day, this guy said to me, we were struggling with a positioning challenge, and he said to me, "How do we get people to say, 'I need that'?" And just
I
the
love
way he
that.
said it, it
Yeah.
just, it became the problem to solve, and it led me to write this book along with another big challenge, and that was just that creating and marketing products is such a high risk undertaking. The odds of winning at blackjack or roulette are just under 50%.
Wow. Yeah.
But with the product launch, depending on what sector you're in, between 70 and 95% of new products fail. So if you think about that, you're taking your investors' trust or your business's future and betting it on odds that would get you kicked out of Vegas for being too risky. And, luckily those aren't fixed odds. We could do a lot of things to change them.
Right.
And a big thing that we can do to change them is being able to, first of all, knowing how to create things that people really do need, and then knowing how to connect with ideal buyers so those people fully recognize that they need that product.
Yeah.
An important thing that the book starts off with is kind of diving into the meaning of that word need.
Yeah.
And
Well, you even go as far as to mention the fact that it's the most important word in marketing.
yeah, that kind of came as I was writing in the early stages of writing this book too. I was recognizing, and I was doing, so much to kind of dismantle the word, to understand where it came from. And as I was doing that research, I created a graph for the book because I thought this was such an interesting trend that 200 years ago, we used need. It was used, it was a commonly used word in our language, but on an analysis of 1 million books in the English language over the last 200 years, between 1800 and 1880, not much changed as far as utilization. And then as our lives became more luxurious from 1880 to present time, we started to use the word more and more. And we, in fact, use it 600% more frequently in our written
We've
language
become total snobs, haven't
than we did then. So yeah, so what is that? How come, with all that we've got now, we need heated mitts and air-conditioned seats in our vehicles, and we need these things. Whereas my grandmother had an outhouse out back of her house, and she thought, I need this new toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, and the whole goal is to transition the mindset of marketers to really fully understand the mindset of consumers or buyers, so that you're saying you need this without saying you need this. I mean, that's like the art of it all, right?
that's the magic of the word, right? It's like this
Yeah.
dark sorcery where if you tell people that they need something, then they're going to reject it. But if the word comes from them themselves, if they feel it, they think it, and they say, "I need that,"
Hmm.
and they actually feel that they need that. And I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because that's another important place where the word need is not just present, but very relevant.
Yeah.
Anything that is higher level to us, or that is more than an essential existential need, is a construct of our mind. We decide that we need that air conditioning, or we decide that we need whatever those other luxuries are, that special bottled water that we insist on drinking, whatever these things are that we've decided we need, are a construct of our mind. So as product makers, or as marketers, we have to figure out what it is that's going to help first of all, got to have a really great product, but to help those end users, those decision makers, those buyers, to decide that this is something that they truly need. And now they're on a mission to get, and whether or not they're going to own it is non-negotiable.
Right. And in order to get there, we first off need to understand the 5 key things that push buyers away or kill deals or, that really impact. And then along with that, the 5 things that really attract as well. So we're going to dive into that next, which I'm really excited about. So take your pen and pencil or paper or computer or iPad, hint, 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 whatever it might be that you want to be taking notes with. And we're gonna get there. One thing that you talk about, and I want to set the stage for this, is the term dog brain. Explain that because we're going to use it quite a bit throughout
Perfect.
the discussion.
I'm glad. I was just going to ask you, may I go into a little bit of brain science before we do that? Because to me, this was really fundamental too, is these needs and how we process them and how we understand and connect those dots, how a want becomes a need is really something else that happens in our brain. And there's 3 main parts of our brain. It's called the triune brain model. And so those 3 main parts is at the bottom, we have what's called the central brain. It's the oldest part of our brain. It's where the basal ganglia and the brainstem reside. So it's kind of the small part just at the top of our spinal cord. And that's what we call the lizard brain. That's in charge of life and death responses. It manages, tells us when we're hungry. It keeps us from suffocating in our pillow at night, right? Because we know we need to keep breathing. So lizard brain does that. And then there's a newer part of our brain on top of that. And that's called the limbic system. And you'll find a limbic system like ours in dogs and other mammals. And if you imagine a dog's quick, impulsive responses and intense emotions, that's how the limbic system works. And that's why I call it the dog brain. It causes us to flee, get excited, pounce, or cower. And the limbic system is also incredibly fast. If I were to show you a photo of an angry face or a fist for just 2 milliseconds, your limbic system would be on high alert. But consciously, in 2 milliseconds, you wouldn't have a clue that you saw it. So, but you'd be fired up and ready to do whatever that next required response is. So the amygdala and the hippocampus are parts of the limbic system that manage emotions, memory retrieval, and really importantly, drive trust. And one other really important thing with the limbic system, the dog brain, is that as marketers, we talk a lot about dopamine, our happy hormone, that gets released when someone likes our new profile photo or when we eat something delicious or close a big sale. That's what makes us feel ecstatic and great. And dopamine is dished out by the dog brain. So,
right.
And
what I love about this analogy, first of all, my husband is going to totally understand right now why so quickly I will buy a Louis Vuitton like that. I'm just going to say it's dog brain. Just go with it. Anyways, what I love about what you're saying is quite often we talk about the fact that we've got on the trade show floor 3 to 6 seconds to stop someone. Why is that? It's because of the dog brain. We as marketers need to make sure that it's the right message, that we look welcoming, that they're intrigued immediately in order to come into the booth instead of making the decision to walk by the booth. As we're moving forward here in the discussion, I think that's a really important note because take a look at display advertising, take a look at TV advertising, print, all these different methodologies now that we use to stop people. And this really ties it all together.
it absolutely does. And you're right that's why we just have 5 seconds to get someone's attention when we're showing a video or with a trade show display, that we have this limited time frame to grab onto. And it's also because the dog brain has this arch nemesis, and that is our neocortex. So that's the big part of the big pink walnut part of our brain that we think of when we think of our brain, that humans, mammals have, primates have, but ours is much, much bigger and it's much more capable. It's that, along with opposable thumbs, is what makes us the dominant species on Earth.
Love it.
And the one thing about the neocortex, though, is 250 times slower than the dog brain. So if I were to give you an example, if it took the dog brain 1 second to understand a photo on your Snapchat, it would take the neocortex over 4 minutes to process that same image in relative time space. So it's that much slower. It's not the hare and the tortoise. It's more like the hare and the snail, because there's just that big of a gulf. So there's that and resources. The neocortex with thinking is very laborious, and that is why our brain, when we have to do thinking work, we switch off. If you were in a boring class at school or a boring lecture, and your brain doesn't feel like doing the processing work, then you switch into a much easier mode, which is daydreaming. And dreaming is so easy. We do it when we're sleeping at night. So that is the default mode that our big heavy duty neocortex likes to switch into and go into, and it'll trip into that really easily. That's the kind of default place that big part of our brain likes to be. So
Right.
what we're trying to do is get dog brain to make these important buying decisions and let neocortex dream about something, a beautiful place to be with that buying choice down the road, instead of doing the other thing it likes to do, which is say, no, that's a bad idea. That's new. New gets me in trouble. You and these crazy new ideas that you respond to, if you let me analyze it, I'll tell you why it's a bad idea. So if we get into analysis, it usually goes bad for the seller.
So why all this matters is really, those key insights about what we as marketers can do to make sure that the dog brain is awakened. And we're going to go through these 5 key things. You need to know what pushes people away, as because it's as important as what really attracts them. So the first one is overloading them with information.
Yeah, complexity overload. The buyer's brain shuts down when it's faced with multi-page RFP requirements or enterprise software that has 500 features and a mega menu 40 layers deep, complex integration and adoption scenarios. It's the simpler the better to get the buyer running and to do the job that it is that they're trying to do. To get them to that, what I call in the book, the coveted condition, which is kind of that ideal long-term future state that buyers want to get into and why they're on your website in the first place. So
the main thing here is to simplify the message, right? To provide the concise, digestible messaging that really highlights the immediate value.
Exactly. Like if you go to Slack's website right now, it'll tell you that you're going to get a 47% on average, that their users experience a 47% productivity increase, because Slack is the opposite of complexity, and it's using AI and automations to make workflows even simpler than ever. And it avoids those complexity issues. That's one of the main reasons Slack caught on so well, is it was so easy to add people, whether they're in your organization or out. And it was just, I put in your email address, you're added.
Yeah. I love that you brought up a number, because quite often, and I'm interested in your POV on this, quite often marketers will utilize numbers in headlines or subheads because people recall numbers so much more easily than they will a combination of 5, 6, 7 words.
That's absolutely true. And I think especially if you have a number like 47%, it's not 50%. It's a number that sounds like it's supported by data, and they have a little asterisk that tells you it comes from one of their fairly large surveys they've done. But having something that's tangible like that, it's like, oh, someone's done the work, they figured this out. If the 47% is the average, even if I get 20%, I'd be happy. So I'm doing well. Let's do this. Let's give this a try, because I believe I'm as good as or better than average.
One of the campaigns out there right now that I love so much, it was launched last fall, was the Shot on iPhone campaign. This was used at an Apple product launch event about a year ago. And Apple's campaign uses simplicity by showcasing stunning visuals. There's no overwhelming text or technical jargon, just the message. And the whole premise behind this is they've got this big studio, all sorts of big cameras, and apparatuses to hold the cameras, the tripods, so on and so forth. But guess what the camera is? It's the iPhone. So Shot on iPhone is really such a lovely, beautiful, smart way of simplicity and utilizing the product in such a heroic way that it says, we're here to stay and we're very, very good at what we do. I mean, it's just bold and brave.
I really like that you suggested this campaign to talk about, because this is something Apple has a distinct advantage at. I mean, for one thing, they've been working on simplicity so much that is core to their brand, but they are also able to really latch on to this whole dog brain thing in a way that really works for the product, because they could tell you that they have a 12 megapixel camera with an f1.9 aperture. And they've got, if you go to their website, the list of tech specs is very long and very impressive, but they know that's not going to sell phones and sell cameras because most people don't buy like that. And they could tell you that you can shoot cinematic pro level photography with this iPhone, but showing you is so much better. And showing you, it allows your dog brain to look at these images and to say, that's beautiful, that's wonderful, I can do that too.
It's that aha moment. Years ago, we were launching a new digital camera for Pentax, and size was really important. Obviously, iPhone and Apple have really changed the way we look at all that today. But at the time, it was truly the smallest digital camera, and we sent the camera to the media in an Altoids box to prove how small it was. And that's another example of how you let something so common tell the story for you, and they connect the dots so quickly.
It also works well if they want to, share a photo of the camera in that thing, because it's one of those old tricks that if you're an old school photographer, you would take a picture of something on a rock in the forest, you'd put your lens cap next to it for scale. So having that Altoids box obviously gives you that, if I were to take a picture of that and share it, I've got that scale reference, and it allows you to tell people verbally too. It fits inside of an Altoids box. Now, it's, rather than saying it's nice and small and compact and smallest camera I've ever seen,
it's believable.
It's believable and it's in context.
Yeah, exactly. The second point here is overcomplicating rather the buying process. And, all too often we see this in a lot of messaging to the point you just made that includes a lot of features, not benefits, but it's information overload, and people shut down because there's no focal point.
Yeah, people, they're there to do something really specific, and those, whether it's friction points that are slowing the process down, in B2B especially, the buying process already has its own complications, right? You've got all these different things that come in the way, from getting the leadership team on board to getting the IT and security team to say that it passes, and then to get through the whatever trials need to be done internally. There's all these blockers that are built in. So anything that you can do to streamline that buying process and to get that user to wins as fast as you possibly can is really, really crucial.
Do you have any data on how we can shorten the sales process there, or the buying cycle as people move through the journey? So for instance, if messaging is in the market and it's complicated, people don't understand it very, very quickly, competitor A, and then competitor B has it nailed, and the buying cycle is 6 months. Is there data to support the fact that, competitor B has shortened the sales cycle by 2 months just by simply doing things correctly?
I don't have specific data on how the shortening the buying process can make sales more effective and improve your sales results. But I would say, anecdotally, if we look at the businesses that have been the most successful, the most effective at getting their app to become the one that's utilized, being able to create a shorter sales cycle, to be able to get the buyer to a win more quickly, and to be able to get to value quicker. Absolutely. There's so much evidence that is effective. That's the way to go.
And look at the lines of people, hundreds and thousands of people deep to get a new iPhone. I mean, that says it right there, right? I mean, that's a great analogy of shortening the sales cycle for sure.
It is. And I'm thinking of one of the examples that as I was looking through different B2B type apps that have really been effective, DocuSign is a really good one. It streamlined B2B transactions by making e-signatures so dead simple that really low tech people like, realtors who are super busy and not interested in having big adoption curves suddenly decided they needed this tool. So they went from their old ways of using physical contracts and agreements to getting things done, getting way more deals done faster by using this easy to adopt, simple app that allowed them to get these signatures, and not only done quicker and completed, but documented and stored in a place that they're retrievable years down the road.
Yeah. So simplification, offering free trials, clear instructions, quick checkout options,
Mhm.
all those sort of things, I think really go a long way in creating that frictionless experience that you're talking about. So the third component here is failure to address that instant gratification that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier today. And if the immediate benefits aren't clear, the dog brain dismisses the offer or something with more apparent short term rewards, which might be the competitor.
Yeah. And again, the buyers need quick wins to justify larger investments. Traditional ERP implementations can take 12 to 18 months to get up and running. Training requirements delay team adoption. And ROI is often only visible in B2B after a full deployment. That could be a year or two after the buying decision is made. So as you were saying, having templates and AI workflows, Monday.com is a good example. They immediately get you going, get you to value in days instead of months. So small wins are used to build confidence for rollouts. And uh, basically, yeah, you need to turn delayed gratification into the fastest possible gratification that you
Yeah,
can
I,
get to the
I love
customer.
that. Do you think that the digital experience has really changed this idea of instant gratification versus in-store experience?
It's changed our expectation for it for sure, and the ability to deliver for smart businesses to have these sandboxes that are pre-populated and templates so you can experience and get your hands on and start to experience what success will feel like more quickly. I feel like that we're not even there yet. That one of the things that you talk about on your show too is that B2B tends to be, years behind consumer marketing. And I do a lot of work in the consumer field. And yeah, I agree. And
Yeah.
some of the challenges are just the structure often in B2B is that if were to come up with some really great dog brain suggestions for my marketing team, they might love it and think that's really innovative and that's brilliant. It shows where the customer, where the users want to be. And then once they take that and pitch it to the CEO, and the CEO says, well, what about all these features, all these things that the team's been working on? And you go and pitch that to our CTO and see what they think, because now you're kind of canceling out all this hard work that we've got. You've gone entirely off brief and come up with this own idea about a desired future state that our customers aren't going to connect with. So I think if I were to imagine where B2B marketing will be in 10 years, I think we'll be closer to a place of being able to connect with users in terms of where they want to be. I think we'll be using a lot more of this dog brain oriented marketing where we're connecting faster and we're cutting to there's there's an example that I call the need stack. We're cutting to a different level in the need stack that is, it's not what we think we want today as far as we're researching the type of tool we want. It's not even the subcategory of the type of tool. It's more towards the way we would Google something. It's you Google the specific need that you're trying to solve, the problem you're trying to fix, and then you look at what the options are and you narrow it down to the one that looks like it's going to suit your need the best. And then you might do some vetting of those, the ones that are the top ranked. And from there, you make your buying decision. I think we'll be cutting through that more quickly in B2B.
Yeah, it's such an interesting point to make, and I have to reiterate this point as well. There is so much in the book that we're not covering today. I mean, that's just a little tiny piece that you really dive into, and just remember that to me, this book is a really a go-to manual on how to change mindset so that we can all sell more product. It does not matter what it is, to more people more often. So again, tying into the main theme here, which, what really pushes people away and causes that dog brain to just walk past is another one is inauthentic and pushy messaging.
Yeah. I mean, again, you can't tell people they need the product. They need to perceive it for themselves. And, to the dog brain, someone that's pushy, it's like, this guy with the net is saying that he's got something for me, but I don't trust him. What is his ulterior motive? Why is this person telling me that I need the product? I'm not connecting what I'm feeling directly with what they're saying. So if the authenticity isn't coming through, again, with the Apple and the photo shot on iPhone example, it eliminates that problem with perceived inauthenticity. I believe Apple's only showing pictures that were really shot on an iPhone. I believe that the camera is capable of doing these things. They're not telling me a long list of things it can do or that it's going to make me a fantastic photographer. They're just saying, look what the capabilities of this thing are. What
Yeah.
can you do with that?
Well, and they prove it through user-generated content as well. I mean, that's really how they connect the dots. They can say, that the product is great, but having a customer show how they're using it really takes that one step further.
And that's something that brands can do. And it's done a lot in consumer. UGC is huge. And I do think that's another area that B2B can make more progress is we see little testimonials and we know those are highly curated. Those still have more value to us than what the brand will say about itself. But when its users are saying things on social media, when we're on LinkedIn and everybody's saying they love to use this new tool and here's why, and we feel that's authentic, now that trust gap is shattered and we believe we have reason to believe and trust what these users are saying about the product because we believe they're probably not incentivized to say that. They're probably like me and they've solved this problem I'm having. Why wouldn't I do that too?
Why do you think it's so tough for brands to find their authentic voice?
There's a number of reasons for that. And I think largely because the people on the inside of the brand, like when I think about the marketers that I work with, the people who are working for all these great companies, they often didn't come in as brand users and brand champions. It was something they had to take on in order to stand behind that, in order to do their job as director of marketing or whatever their role is with that company. They had to learn to use the product and adopt it, but it didn't come to them from their genuine place of need.
Right.
And that's where very often innovators, CEOs, and leaders, whoever is behind the product, is the best voice to really understand what that true need is, because they are the ones that whoever it was that decided the market needs this product, they came from that place where they felt the gap and they knew what it was, and they knew what it was to live without that and to feel such an agonizing need that they're going to put years of their life into fixing it. People marketing the product, those teams, especially generations down, and as the brand gets bigger, and they get attached to other types of vision, but it's not need centric.
Yeah. A couple different points here. I think a lot of marketers just make knee-jerk decisions, and this is what we're going to do. They don't invest enough in strategic development. And strong strategic development, and which is really what we're talking about here, is really what helps uncover the need states of a person from a mindset and psychological standpoint, and even, dare I say, the physiological side of it as well, that really, really is impactful and meaningful. So spend more time listening to StrategyCast, quite frankly, because we're providing you every week all these different approaches when it comes to developing strategy that you can ultimately hang your hat on. The final thing is this. I think internal teams get too close to what they're marketing day in and day out, and they lose sight of not just differentiation, but distinction. And that's where an external agency can really come in because they, number one, think differently, but they're not so close to what they do day in and day out that they provide a very, very fresh perspective.
That's brilliant. And I totally agree. If more marketers would listen to StrategyCast and invest in their own knowledge, because that is another thing that I find with, and congratulations to the marketers, the people with marketing jobs that are listening to this to grow and to learn, because you're among the minority. Most of the people that I work with that, I'll go to a call after this and I'm going to talk to a bunch of people that are marketing a great product. In this case, it's a B2B product, but none of them are going out and listening to podcasts and putting in the work to expand their knowledge and to make themselves better at doing what they're trying to do for the product they're selling for the company they work for. It's just, it seems so essential to me, as someone who's, I've had to take it upon myself for 30 years to look after my growth, not just in my career, but in my own knowledge. But it's just not common enough out there. I think get your teams listening to things, get them listening to good content because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
Listen to Laurie's podcast because every episode is different and it doesn't get boring because you're listening to a different guest every time. So it's
Well,
really a goldmine.
thank you. I very much appreciate that, Laurier. The final component here is neglecting emotional triggers.
And emotional triggers, as opposed to all the other types of triggers too, are they're the ones that happen really, really quickly. They're not driven by, a thirst for deeper specifications or a strong rationale, a strong argued rationale of why you should own the product. They're very immediate. They're very, I'd say dog brain driven because they're the things that happen that give your audience that dopamine hit somehow from seeing something, from seeing beautiful photos. I've been lucky enough to work in spaces related to food many times, and anytime you can have sizzle and delicious food that you're showing on camera, that is something really, that's a gift to be able to work with, because now you've got these emotional sensory triggers that you can pull. But in any type of marketing, as what Apple's doing, marketing a physical device, you can grab those emotional triggers and get people feeling, give them the feels, and tie that to the product in a way that makes sense. And from there, you have them. That is what gets their attention. That's what gets them on side to listen more.
Well, the feels, which I love in that situation are joy, pride, creativity. Think about even like taking this one step further. If we achieve all 5 of these things, and we get a buyer and they feel joyful or prideful over working with you, they become a strong referral source. They become, talk about lifetime value of a customer. They're going to be with you far longer and not have that switcher mindset of looking for the next greatest thing down the pike here.
Well, and those are bond building characteristics, right?
Yeah.
Joy and pride and I'm thinking things that feed the ego, that that make you
Absolutely.
feel better.
Yeah.
When you buy that Louis Vuitton bag, you're not buying it because it's a well-made, beautiful bag. You're buying it because it is something that has a very built-out place, a very big status symbol position in everyone's life who owns one.
Yeah.
Whether it's your first one or your 10th. If it's your first one, you're joining the Louis Vuitton club. If it's your 10th, now you're a Louis Vuitton collector.
Well, I'm not going to tell you how many Louis Vuittons that I do have, but
More on the collector side.
Yeah, exactly. But it does, it's pride. It's an awakening. I've waited, many, many years to be able to invest in something like that. And it is a joyful moment. I love it.
And I don't have any myself, and I find it really interesting to hear when people are buying these status products, because very often I've worked with clients marketing products that have that status potential. And that's another thing I talk about in the book is, it's taken centuries for brands like Louis Vuitton to get to that position. You don't just pop up a status brand overnight. You create all the things that people get the status from. And at those early stages, it's really creating, it's quality and customer service above all, and, ensuring satisfaction and those things that when you go to a really nice hotel and you feel that whatever you need, they've got you looked after, it's having that feeling around the brand, is that this is something that is absolutely deluxe. It's because no corners are cut, no compromises are made. That's why, and I love this thing and it loves me back.
Yeah. Quickly, 2 things here. What do you feel as the comms and marketing teams are working through these and really, checking the box off or saying we need to get better in this area? Do you feel the biggest challenge that they might encounter along the way?
Again, I think the biggest challenge is often internal, because they might know exactly what they need to do. They might be able to see how they could restructure their navigation on their website to make it easier to get to the solution that people need, or what the various components are. So I think it's not so much understanding what these things are, but being able to articulate them to other team members so that others understand why we want to do all this work, why we want to invest in this overhaul, to basically put the same things in different places sometimes, and to decrease friction. Now, there's lots of evidence that can be collected, and that's where web analytics and heat maps, and if you want to back up your argument by showing where those friction points currently are, that's usually the best place to go. Let's get tangible about this. Let's see where we're falling down. Let's do voice of customer research and find out what people need to really know, and are we getting them there as quickly as we can? Are our deals falling apart because they're taking too long to get across the line? I think that being able to gather as much data as you can, use the tools that are available, gather data, find out, test your hypotheses with landing pages so that the stakes are lower when you're doing that testing than just saying, well, we need to rebuild this entire website because I believe people need this kind of visual. Well, it's really easy to create a small campaign and test it, be on brand, find out if it works or not, and now I have data to take to the decision makers that might otherwise hold you back.
This has been fabulous, Laurier. Thank you so much. We've got this incredible theme that we're launching this year on the show. It's called Better At. And we believe that marketing is all about making things better for people we seek to serve and the world around us. So I've got a question for you. What is one skill or mindset shift that helped you become better at your work? And how do you apply that impact to others? And this is a two-part question. What is a better at idea that someone can take away from reading your book?
One of the most important things that I talk about in the book is validation. And that can be validation that is as simple as the landing page I was talking to you about. Is you can pop up a landing page in an hour, you can create an ad in a few minutes, and you can start creating small tests. And that's one of the things that I think that I've become a lot better at with the groups that I work with, is not just telling them this would be a great idea. Let's get the designers to do it up. Let's take a chance on this brilliant new idea I have. And then finding I don't get the buy-in. By the time it's gone through all the layers, it never gets traction. And we end up doing what everybody was going to do in the first place. So I think part of what I've got better at doing is becoming better at showing and not telling what we need to get to, and better at using data to prove what we need to try, what my hypothesis is. And I think also just better at connecting those dots between idea and implementation.
Better at validation. That is just all sorts of goodness right there, directly from Laurier here. What is the best way for our audience to get a hold of your book?
The best way to get my book is to go to lmandin.com. That's LMANDIN.com. And from there, it'll help you to find the book it's available in hardcover, paperback, Kindle ebook, or audiobook. And the audiobook is really awesome if you're a podcast listener. All of that you can get to from lmandin.com, or it's available on Amazon or Audible. So
you've definitely made it. You're on Amazon. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Laurier,
you.
that's fabulous. So much goodness today. Just so many key takeaways that I'm going to even think about. We've got an incredible process, but I'm writing a lot of this right into the process, because we too can sometimes get too close to what we do day in and day out, which is one of the key reasons why I love this show so much, is because I never stop learning. So thank you, Laurier, so much. We appreciate you. Congratulations on the book. Congratulations on all of your success. And we really appreciate your appearance today on StrategyCast.
Thank you, Lori. It's been a real joy.
And if you'd like to go ahead and get a hold of me, please email me, Lori, Lori, at StrategyCast.com.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We hope your strategic brains are spinning with new ideas and bold inspiration that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.